It's quite a long story, really, because when we moved to Rotherham, we moved into a predominantly Kashmiri area, so I had a lot of friends in the Kashmiri community. And a lot of now old men, but who are young men in the 50s, 60s, told these incredible stories about their lives when they first came to the country, about sort of 60 people living to a house, about working steelworks, about fighting for equal pay, quite extraordinary stories. So when we set up the theatre company, the first thing I wanted to do, I'd always had in my mind the idea, is to make a glorious play.
I was born in a windswept village in the Punjab. My family came from Mirpur in Kashmir, but we were displaced by the flooding of our land. It was the Mangla Dam. Having travelled from Mirpur in my mother's belly, I was one of the first Kashmiri babies born in the Punjab. Identity. What identity? More like an identity crisis. Then at the age of 11, we came to Rotherham. Could things get any worse?
Well, I met this wonderful man called Steve Rogers, and when I first met him, he began to tell me about my community. And I looked back at him, I goes, what do you know about my community? And how I got involved with the project was somebody who's doesn't look like me, completely from a different community, is inspired by our community history and wanting to tell our story. And that really engaged me when he told me what he would like to do. And I kind of came on board at that point. My two sons, Hatem and Yasin, they came in this country 1967, just little boys, and they were little boys arguing with me. Hammi ji, don't call me Chana. They didn't like chickpea, I call them Chana. They're always laughing. When they came, they left us behind, all of us, and me, their mother. But they write letters. My Yasin write beautiful letters. He was so tell me stories about England.
Roy! That Packy's got a family with him!
You what?
It looks like his family.
How bloody many?
About 4 or 5. Oh, his wife's pretty. Oh, she's got lovely long hair. Oh, a little girl. Oh, Roy, she's got a red Packy dress on.
Bloody hell.
When we first set up the idea of doing performance and telling the story of the Kashmiri community was quite alien to our community. And so a lot of people who were very, very suspicious about it felt this might be Bollywood, this might be, sort of girls dancing on stage and all sorts of inappropriate things. And we were very, very careful to be sort of culturally sensitive.
Good kids. It didn't mean people like me. Nobody saw me. Oh, and then there were the prayers. I used to be so scared. I knew that God was watching me. But I knew the teachers were watching me. I'd bow my head and pretend to pray. I'd hold my hands up like this. And I'd say, La ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah, over and over again.
Can I ask you something? You don't pray proper. Why'd you do this? You say all that stuff. You know, you do this.
We pray different. I'll get into trouble if I pray English way.
Trouble from who?
From our God.
Basically, I didn't know I could write. My background is not arts or performing arts. And as Steve and I began to talk about the project, and what I loved about the ideas that Steve had was to base it upon authentic stories. This wasn't what I thought was my history or what Steve thought was our history. This was going out and doing a model that was based upon doing community research, and that was partly my background. And so for me, it was, after we did all the research, we interviewed all the first generation, that was men as well as women. I realized I had a natural ear for the story, and I connected to what people were saying, and it inspired me to have ideas, really. And I was very lucky that Steve was somebody who, as I was kind of sharing my thoughts through the interview process, he's like, looked at me and said, that's good, I like that. And next thing we knew, very organically, we began to work together. And obviously, if somebody told me 15 years ago that I was going to write a play and it's going to be toured around England, I said absolutely, never in my lifetime. But as it turned out, that's exactly what happened.
And then there was going to town. We had to play dodge the skinheads. Sometimes we were lucky. Sometimes we weren't.
Right, so let's get in. Where do you want to get?
Hey, oh, they've got one.
Go down the station. Go this way. Go!
Bastard!
Very hard, we're mainly Muslims, and it's when you go to the community say, oh, I'm doing a drama, because they can't play theatre, they don't understand the language, and it'd be like, oh no, daughters are not going to go on stage, not going to involve with dancing, and there's a very negative perception. And we've kind of slowly perfected it, but not 100%. And the way that Steve and I work, we do engagement. We really go out there, we get to know the community, and we show them this is what we're about. I'm not anti anybody dancing on stage, but it's just not what we do. And there's a different kind of arts there, and he's trying to educate different people about, you have theatre, you have movies, you have this, and even within theatre you can do so many different forms of art. So it was very difficult for people to trust us, that we weren't going to abuse maybe their children, having all maybe mixing on stage. And when we began this story 10 years ago, we didn't even have men and women mixing on stage. Where we were very lucky that our story lent itself to be told with men and women separate, because the men came over first on their own. And what we realised very quickly, by the time we did the second play in 2008, we slowly we introduced concepts and ideas. So, for example, the first time we mixed a male and female on stage was it was just a husband and wife, but a distance between them. Then slowly we had them in family scenes together. We realised which were safe relationships on stage, where men and women, remember, their families will come to see the play. So we got Razia, who's playing a mother in this play, and her husband is going to see her being a wife of another man. So it's a very, it touches a few buttons, but the way we do it with a lot of cultural awareness and religious awareness, we can, if we wanted to, shock people. That's very easy to do, but then we would lose our audience. Our aim is to keep our audience with us on this journey, and for that to happen, Steve and I are very committed to do culturally and religiously appropriate produced art forms, whether that's theatre or any other art form. That's one of our commitments. We may go completely left in a few years' time, but right now where we are, the importance of keeping the community involved is bigger than my desire to do something that they might find something that they would disapprove of.
It's the niggers! It's the paddies! It's the Flemings! It's those packies. Hundreds of years of blaming someone else. Be proud to be British. No, really. Be proud to be British. It's such a rich culture. You know, for such a small island, we have influence everywhere. I read books, you know. This entire country is built on immigrants. You don't be great by being pure, by being alone. Greatness is about coming together, learning together and growing together. How are we supposed to understand each other? If you live here and I live there, if your school is here and my school is there, if your community is there and my community is here, how are you supposed to understand me and me understand you? You don't get much understanding by kicking the shit out of me.
My brother told me a long time ago that he was doing a play about racism. So basically he said that, oh, it's really good. And at the time I was studying performing arts in college and I wanted to get some more acting experience. So he said, there's a spare part, why don't you give it a go? So I started playing just the lower parts, the small ones, and with time I evolved into playing his big older brother, which is a larger part. So really I just fell into it by accident. But honestly, I didn't realise that it was so hard-hitting and so there was so much life behind it, so much truth, so much, because all these kind of things, they happen in society. So I felt, oh, by being a part of this, I'm doing good by spreading a message, really, because at the end of the day, it's about my parents' culture, because they all went through that as well.
Nationally,
our people from Bradford, Birmingham, and
Pakistani bande, Pakistani bande.
No, Baba, our people, our supporters.
Oh, front ne, na? Front ne? Front ne?
Baba, look, our people. Look down. There are people from. They come to support us. They don't like the National Front people. They come to look after us. They're called socialists.
Social ne? Kya bakwas bol na? Social ne?
Look down there. Look on Milton Road down. Baba, look, the coaches came.
I met Steve on work experience when I was in school. And basically I just walked into a room and he looked at me and he said, "Can you act?" And I said, "Yes." And then I didn't see him for 3 months. 3 months later he called my school and said, "I'm looking for Samir. I have a part for him in a play and I'd like to cast him." So that's how I got the part for this play. This was 7 years ago. That's how I met him. I just by chance I walked into the room and he just looked at me and he must have thought I fit the part. I don't know.
I'm going to the library tomorrow, okay, Mum?
Yes.
Tomorrow you go nowhere. Why? I always go on Saturdays. I need new books. I said you not go nowhere! Me and my Doctor Who books have to go back tomorrow, please.
Amni, no time tomorrow, na?
Medical books and doctor books.
Amni, they're not medical books. Doctor Who is story books.
You get to know, obviously the story behind it, because obviously it's all based on the fact that where Steve and Tiber have obviously interviewed people to get the stories and obviously made their story from their experience and stuff like that. So it's good to get obviously to know what experiences they had and how sort of the white people back then interacted with them, and obviously in a negative, obviously with the NF marches, and obviously the positive side of it as well. The character I play, for example, he sort of starts off. I won't say he's necessarily racist, but he's a bit. He doesn't know about obviously the Asian family that settles in next door. He doesn't know sort of their culture and.
Oi! What are you doing?
Making a poster. I'm on strike.
What strike? What's it got to do with you?
I work at Steensley Works, Steensley Bridge.
What would you know about being on strike? I've been on strike. What would you lot know coming over here? In jobs. It's ignorance, and obviously throughout the play, obviously not to give too much away, but my character interacts more with one of the neighbours, who he finds out he's got a lot more in common than he first realised. Then obviously he gets to the point where he realises that we're not so different, kind of thing. It's kind of a journey for Roy, more than anything of discovery, kind of thing. So, do you know that packy next door?
Just a bit. I never stops going on about him.
I've been talking to him.
You what? You've been talking to him?
Right. And he's had a beating up police at Tinsley Bridge.
Oh, well, it made a change from skinheads.
That's what I said. He's down at Steelworks at Picket Line.
Why? What's it got to do with him?
That's what I said. He says he works there. He's on strike.
On strike?
Right.
But it's a packet.
I know. But he's still on strike. And he's been fighting with coppers.
DL.
Mm-hmm.
Right, basically I saw the second play and I went to see it and I was really inspired about the play, so that's when I spoke to Steve and Tiber, and I think the second play was 5 years ago, but obviously we're doing it again with new actors, and there's some that did it last time as well. And basically it was just speaking to Steve and being really inspired about it, and obviously because I was born in Rotherham and some of the scenes that I saw I could have identified with them when I was at school. So, it was like the story close to my heart.
Mom, do you want chocolate?
You know I don't like Galia Jesus. I don't like black things.
But it's chocolate.
Oh, have you already been to the shop? I told you to save your Eid money.
I thought you were bounty.
Oh. Shazi, it's a rice pudding, it's a galigi, na?
I bet you've seen this every Christmas morning, every mother in every house.
Daliona, come on, get the semia on. You know you've got the pakoras to do. And I've still got the kebabs to make. And your dad and brother will be coming home soon. And your dad has to do the hatam.
Why does he always pray on the sweet day?
Nikki Kapata is something that we all do, that's it.
But you should know, you make him make the sweet dish all the time.
Go and ask your dad. Ask him why you have to put chila on your head, na jada koi kam karna.
Eid Mubarak, Ammi, Eid Mubarak. Yaar, it's so big, na?
Oh, Shazi, look, it's na. You look so beautiful. Look so beautiful with your salwar kameez. You need to wear salwar kameez every day.
Me, salwar kameez in Steelworks, formal with like that one, good idea, na?
Next year, I'm going to take you to Pakistan. Get you a beautiful wife.
Me, 5 years, na? 5 years.
At the beginning, very, very difficult indeed, because people were suspicious. It was quite hard. The first play was hard work. We did it with young people, sort of about 10 to 14, 15-year-olds. The second play we've always done with adults. Once we'd done the first play, there's a knock-on effect, because people want to be part of it, and we know a lot of people who want to be involved. And I think the third play will be the same, because again, the third play is going to be set in the present time. It's going to be about now.
I'm very used to a life of, in a way, responding to adversity, and it's what makes you strong. I've never been somebody. I was a very shy child, and I didn't know that if I had opinions that other people would listen to them, or that I had anything important to say, until I was probably about 16, 17, and a wonderful teacher just took me and inspired me, and I remember he became my first mentor, and I learned so much about just trying to be true to who you are and trying to be yourself.
I think obviously me being a Pakistani Muslim woman, and I think people have their assumptions. But I think after seeing the play, you know, them stereotypical views of being eradicated, and people just generally want to compliment you on the performance in the play. That's the response I've got. You know, so it's like, oh my God, you're not doing acting. What's that about? But once they've seen the play, they understand what the play is about.
From the first play, the second play, well, I think what was quite interesting is when I first spoke to the Cultural Diversity Arts Officer in Rotherham about what I wanted to do, and also to the Arts Centre in Rotherham, they just thought I was mad. They didn't tell me I was mad, then he told me that later. And when I said I was going to actually fill the Arts Centre with a 90% Kashmiri audience for 3 nights in a row, they thought I was absolutely bonkers. And actually what happened was, while we were rehearsing the first play and putting it all together, Rotherham Theatres employed Audiences Yorkshire to actually do a survey amongst the Kashmiri community to see if they were ready to do drama. The survey proved they weren't ready, and came out on the very day that we filled the Arts Centre with a 90% Kashmiri audience. So embarrassed were Rotherham Theatres, they actually gave us the 2,000 quid they got left in their budget to carry on with the performance. But the reaction has always been incredibly positive, because Tiber and I have written it based upon real stories. You know, we've taken the stories of, in the first play, the old men, in the second play, people in their 40s, second generation, and formed the play around those stories. So people have come and said, it's my story, you're using my story. So it's very, very embedded in our community.
It was amazing. After the first play on, we performed that around the country. The only way I can describe it, the theatres or the community centres that we went to, there was like a warmth and a glow. And just people had these really big smiles and kind of saying, that's our story, thank you so much. That was me and that happened to me. And we... For Steve and I, we just knew when we had that response from the local communities that we'd got it right, that we were true to what people told us, you know, and that was a very important. It made people feel very good about themselves. What I realised, not being from a background of the arts is not really part of my own family history, is the importance of telling our stories and about having an understanding about where we're from. Just for us to have how do we understand our own identity and belonging if we don't know what path we took to get here? And what the plays and the audience response to our plays have shown us is how important that is.
We did the first show, and I heard all the people clapping, I saw their faces, there were people cheering. You really feel good inside. It's like a drug, basically. When you feel all those people being proud, but not being proud, but enjoying the fact that you have entertained them and you've also taught them something as well, giving them something to think about. It made me feel good, because at the end of the day, when you're walking on the streets, you kind of think that, you know, I'm just doing my own part. But when you come before people and you have a message to say, you kind of think you've done something more. So I felt I've done something more than just sitting around at home. I'm getting involved in something bigger and something larger. So I felt really good, like it made a kind of a difference in someone. At least even if it affected just one person, it made me feel good that effect has affected that, made them think maybe a little bit different.
I didn't know that you was gonna, you know, since when did you become an actress? And I was like, I don't know, I just got I was interested in the play when I saw it 5 years ago. We've had a fantastic response. We've had so many people that didn't know what to expect when they bought the ticket. But after the play, they were saying, we want to see it again. You know, so we've had a fantastic response. People watching the play. Even children that you might think, oh, it's boring. You know, because it's not. Because, you know, nowadays children like PlayStation games. They don't like to sit in a theatre, watch a performance, a live performance. But the children, young children, have even looked at the play and thought, fantastic.
We've been doing this play for nearly a decade now, so a long, long time. We have all grown up together. Honestly, in the beginning, I was scared. because you know these new faces, but after a while you get to know their personalities. So a lot of people in this play, they play totally different parts to what they're like in real life. Al, for example, he plays a hardcore racist. He calls everybody bad words, really racial words. But in real life, he's the most accepting and kind person, like a friendly giant, basically. And he's really sweet. So you honestly do feel like you're part of a family. And I honestly do feel that way, that I've learned everyone's personalities. This time round, when Steve said, Hassan, we're doing the play again, I was saying, oh, Steve, I can't do it. I've got college and I've got work. I won't be able to do it. So he called me down, sat me down. You need to do the play, Hassan. You have to do it. It's important. So then I sat down, I spoke with him, and I said no. But then this is a true story, but then when I saw Al and a few other people walk through the door, I remembered the family, and I said, actually, do you know what? Yeah, I'll do it. I turned around to Steve straight away. I said, do you know what, Steve? I'll just do it. And he goes, oh, brilliant. Because I felt I want to be part of that family again.
Kick in! Come on! Beating, kicking, hanging, cutting, killing, slaughtering. It's always been so. The Flemish, the Jews, the Irish, the West Indians, and now the... From when I was young, I was told that Pakis were taking over our country. They were taking our jobs, they were getting cheap houses. They had no respect for our culture. Just even try to fit in. And I was told from when I was young that do-gooders were only helping them because they were stupid. And what's more, they bred like rabbits. And why did they need all them community centres? All that racial equality stuff. Why couldn't they just learn to adapt to our country? I mean, if they wanted to live here, they could fucking well make an effort to fit in.
And I was told that my grandfather bowed down to your lot. Wouldn't even look up if a bucket was falling on his head. He was on, oh yes, sir. Oh no, sir. My dad worked hard all of his life in your steelworks, feeding your country. He held his head just a little bit higher than my grandfather's, and you lot tolerated him because you needed his sweat to feed your mouths and keep your country going. And us lot, we took the beatings. We took the abuse. I didn't ask to come here. But we went home with busted lips and bleeding noses. Not anymore now. I'm not taking it. You bring 5, I'll bring 10! No! Get off! You've all done it for glory. For fuck's sake, when is it going to stop? Just stop this dance off. My dad's bigger than your dad. I've got more mates than you. I've got a bigger metal bar. I've got a knife. I've got a gun. When's it going to stop? What's going to be left? 2 dead bodies on the street and no one's going to care. Then you'll have something in common.
And it wasn't, believe it or not, until I started this play, this is now nearly 11 years ago, that I actually understood what my background was. Even though I was born in Kashmir, and particularly in Azad Kashmir, I had no idea that it was this separate country. I didn't understand it. I didn't grow up in United Kingdom where people called me Kashmiri, they called me Pakistani, or they called me lots of other bad names. So it was very hard to know I thought Kashmiri were just a group of people. I didn't know they're actually a group of people live in a different country, that it was one of the oldest countries in that region. And so the irony was, through this process, I learned who I was and what my history is. But being a woman, I just think I'm very grateful that my family did migrate here. Do I have a lot more life opportunities? Of course. The things that I do now, I know this possibly may not have happened to me if I hadn't come to the UK. But at the same time, I look at my kind of forefathers and foremothers with feeling so inspired about how life was, going back just a couple of generations. When my mother tells me, it makes me emotional, that I was born I saw where I was born because I went back when I was 8 and it was literally an empty room and part of our house was made of mud. And you just think, God, I was born in that corner. And this local lady who used to help to deliver the lambs, she helped to bring me, her name was Masmani, and she helped to deliver me. And that it's very hard when you live this life that seems more comfortable. You go back and you just think, that still is some people's experiences. I think what the project has done for me as a woman is look how I can give back. And my big thing is to educate people about their background and about their history. And if I can do that in such an entertaining way and emotional at times, and sometimes it's very hard to listen to, but still it's very important, then that's something that as a woman I feel that it's my story. And aren't I lucky to be able to share this with other people?
I was younger and I first did this play. I used to scream and shout my lines. There used to be no direction, basically. I just used to throw my arms about and just say anything. I was rubbish at portraying what I needed to say. This time round, over the years working with Steve, I've learnt to hone my skills. He's taught me to really feel the lines, to concentrate on what you want to say, to become the part. And my confidence has grown vastly. I'm not at all scared to go in front of people and speak, to go in front on the stage or anything and say what I feel or want to say. Or when I was younger, I was a lot shy. Now I'm not at all. He really has helped me become a stronger person in myself and my confidence. And now he's really taught me about acting and taught me how to just be a little bit more calm and more collective and think about what you have to say and what you want to do. So in a way you can say that he's helped me progress further, which is really good, to be honest.
Well, at the time I was going to be doing medicine, and so I started down that line. I was going to college with a group of friends. We were all going to do medicine, either be dentists or doctors. But getting into this play and meeting Steve and starting to work in the theatre side of things, I realised that actually I'm enjoying this a lot more. And I've always done what I wanted to enjoy. So I decided to scrap the medicine plan and go down theatre. So I'm also a musician as well. At the time it was just a hobby. This has become my job, so I go into schools now. I teach music, percussion from all around the world, from South America to Africa to Middle East. I teach all different kinds of drums. And then I do performances like this, so I act as well. And it's changed my life completely. Otherwise I would still be in university studying to be a doctor right now, and I'm pretty sure it's a lot more fun doing this.
They tell me I'm Pakistani. I go to Pakistan and they see that Kashmiri number plate. I get stopped at every junction. A few hundred rupees and I'm away, but under their breath, you bloody Kashmiri peasant. And you tell me I'm Kashmiri. Well, I go to Kashmir and they say, you're bloody, you know nothing of life here. You know nothing of hardship. You know nothing about our lives. What do you know? And then, finally, I come back here. The country I've known the most. And you tell me to go back to my country. Where's that? This is my country. Please, just tell me you understand now. I want what you want. I just want to live in peace. I just want to grow old safely. I want to have a belonging.
I have been saying for the last 5 years we've got to get on with the third play. And in fact, Tiber had a very, very pressurised job. She got a job as chief executive of REMA, which is Rotherham Ethnic Minority Alliance. And so she was working incredibly long hours. And it was only when I finally persuaded her to leave that job, and they said, right, now. But also what's quite exciting about the third play is we're also using Mikhail Hassan, musician in Lahore and Pakistan, well-known musician, who's going to write original music for it. We're using Zahir Rafiq, who's a visual artist based in Rotherham but shows his stuff in London, to actually design the set. So the third play is going to be drawing in a visual artist, a musician, all of whom are sort of top-quality artists. It's hard work. We have ups and downs and things going wrong all the time. But when the trilogy is complete, at that point I think, oh, I can die now. We've done it. I don't intend to, because I'm going to carry on, but it'll be that sort of feeling of that's our work. Because, as you pointed out early on, it is a unique piece of work, you know, and as a company we do work all over the place, we work with all sorts of people, but this particular thing, for me, is the single most important artistic thing that the company has done.